you can do the action. You can believe, you can step in, you can do the action. You can choose to have the quantum leap and do what God has put in front of you and believe and keep your mindset moving forward towards that quantum leap. But be patient, and I cannot believe I'm having to say that word. Be patient for the results. Hi, and welcome to the Christ-Driven Woman Podcast, the recommended podcast for Christian female entrepreneurs and really any woman who wants to grow closer to Christ. Whether you are just starting out in business, a seasoned entrepreneur, or a stay-at-home mom, you, sister, were created for far more than you could possibly ask or imagine. I'm Charisse Burton, Christian Certified Master Business and Life Coach, and from my experience growing from beyond the impossible as a teenage runaway to a successful CEO building multiple six-figure businesses across multiple industries, I will teach you how to hit your first 10K month and then go far beyond that using my proven systems. These strategies will help you build a business that defies expectations and also will grow your faith beyond measure. I'm so glad you're here. So today we are talking about how to have a quantum leap. And frankly, I think it's going to be something that you didn't quite expect. And in praying about this, I'm kind of surprised that this is what God wanted me to talk about. And side note, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the Lord speaks to me a lot in the shower, where of course I don't have anything to write with. So what I do is jump out of the shower real quick and type myself a text, or I speak a text to myself so that I can capture those moments of what I feel like the Lord is speaking to me and what he's saying. And so that I don't forget, because it also seems like as soon as I get out of the shower and walk out of the bathroom, I forget everything that just happened or everything that was just said. But if you're not like me, then tell me how you do it. How does the Lord normally speak to you? So anyway, I digress. But we are back to talking about how to have a quantum leap and what that looks like. And why I'm so fascinated that the Lord wants me to talk about this is I am probably one of the most impatient people you will meet. And I've said this before, and I will say this forever. My husband is a saint. He is the patient one. I am not. So when I'm talking about a quantum leap, whether it is in my business, whether it is in my health and exercise journey or weight loss journey, I want to see a quantum leap. And the definition of a quantum leap, I think, is something that the majority of people really push. Like, we stretch that meaning. Like, we know quantum means big, and a quantum leap, that means kind of an astronomical amount of growth. And it can happen suddenly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will happen suddenly. And, I want to have massive, amazing, quick, fast, huge, sudden growth with no growing pains. I mean, it is laughable, right? But I'm just being real. I'm just being honest. But that's where I tend to go. But what happens, and I've said this before, that absolutely the Lord wants us to be successful. I mean, we all know, I think, Jeremiah 29:11. We all know Deuteronomy 8:18. If you don't know those, go look them up. But the Lord created us for success. But I will remind you that success is not going to come at the cost of our growth. He wants us to have success when it will grow us and glorify his kingdom. And what I mean by that is he's not going to sacrifice our growth and who he created us to be and how he wants us to live just for our success. Okay? So we think about, or at least I think about, so please share in the comments or put it in a review if you can identify with what I'm talking about here, is that we look at a quantum leap as a huge, often sudden, I looked up the definition, increase or advancement, right? So what if, because remember, God's timing is not our timing. God's economy is very different than ours. So what I'm here to tell you about having a quantum leap, and why I think that you're not going to expect what I'm saying, is because sometimes the quantum leap doesn't look like a quantum leap to us until months or sometimes even years after the fact. I am going to give you some practical things though. First of all, you absolutely have to choose. It's not going to just happen on its own. You have to choose to have a quantum leap. You have to choose to have the activity, and you have to choose to have the mindset of the quantum leap. And what I mean by that is people who have quantum leaps, who experience growth like we're talking about, they don't change their mindset. They don't get halfway through pushing for the quantum leap and decide, you know what, maybe this isn't going to happen because it's not happening as quickly as they wanted it to. And I've been in that place. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I have been an entrepreneur for over 21 years. And I have been in that place praying for the Lord to send me the right direction. Tell me what the next steps are for the growth of my business, for the growth of my family, how he wants me to glorify his kingdom, and to do it quickly, to do it rapidly. Because again, we've established I have no patience. So I've been in that place. But sometimes the quantum leap is just about the choice to move forward and staying in that mindset, even when it doesn't look like it's going to happen, or even when it's not happening on our time frame. And we have to remind ourselves, our timing is not God's timing. So you definitely want to pay attention or listen to, let's see, next week's episode, which will be number 11, because we're going to be talking about taking the leap of faith and what it looks like when you take that leap of faith and you don't land in the promise as quickly as you thought you were, or the promise doesn't look like what you thought it would when you took that leap of faith. So we're going to be talking about that next week. But right now, I want you to think about this. Just because the results don't show up as fast or as immediate as we want them to, does that mean it's not a quantum leap? So we've already said, we're impatient. Normally, I'm always impatient, but we have to choose to have a quantum leap. We have to choose to take the action that would get us that quantum leap, and we have to choose to stay in the mindset. That mindset is huge. We are daughters of the King. We actually are called his family. We are grafted in. We are a royal priesthood in 1 Peter, right? So do we live as royalty? Do we live and believe that we have access to what the King gives us, to what the King has to offer? And again, when we want that quantum leap, we can know that he's going to give us that answer, or he's going to give us something better. And sometimes that means no, not right now, because something better is coming. But we still have to choose in that quantum leap because we will grow no matter what. So let's look at it this way. A quantum leap, again, we've established, is a big, huge, sudden, sometimes, not always, but sudden, sometimes growth or advancement, okay? So I'm going to give you a practical example here. I will be talking about my health journey, which is just like the bane of my existence, I think. But I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be transparent here. So in March, on March 17th, to be exact, because we went to visit my son in Newport. We took all the kids, everybody was there. And so I wasn't about to try to start a health journey while we were in Newport, Rhode Island with the whole family on vacation. So we got back on the 16th, and on the 17th, boom, I started this plan. And it was eating healthier. I had meal prep recipes, and I was going to stick to this eating plan, and I have for the most part. And I was going to start walking on a daily basis, if not twice a day. So I was significant. So I literally went from the beginning of March, the first 2 weeks of March, to sort of exercising, sort of taking a walk here and there, but mostly just for enjoyment's sake, not for exercise sake. I was not on a specific eating plan other than trying to not eat too much sugar. But then, bam, on March the 17th, I had a sudden transformation in my eating and in my exercise routine. Sudden. And it was pretty significant. I was pushing myself to get up to 8,000 steps a day, then 10,000 steps, then 12,000 steps a day. Y'all, I wasn't even hitting sometimes 3,000 steps a day before. So to say it was sudden is an understatement. Now, did I get the same results? Were the results sudden? Nope, still working on those. Still being patient about those results, which is the hardest thing for me. But that's the example I wanted to give you, is that you can do the action. You can believe, you can step in, you can do the action. You can choose to have the quantum leap and do what God has put in front of you and believe and keep your mindset moving forward towards that quantum leap. But be patient, and I cannot believe I'm having to say that word. Be patient for the results. Because even though it was a massive, huge, sudden redirect in my eating and in my exercise, the quantum leap and the results haven't shown themselves yet. Now, are they gonna? Yeah, they better. Yes, if I keep moving forward on this. Now, I will also be honest with you that in the past, when I've done something like this, or I've made a huge change in my exercise routine, and I didn't see the results, within a month, I am the most impatient. I mean, obviously we've established that, but I've been that person. It's like, oh my gosh, I have done, something for 3 days and I didn't get the results I wanted. So, I get frustrated. It doesn't work, or I have to change something. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. Stick to what the Lord has told you. So this is sort of the activity and the mindset and the example. And like I said, this probably wasn't what you expected to hear about having a quantum leap. A quantum leap can actually mean a few different things, but you get to choose to stay in that quantum leap. But even before that, what are you praying to be the result from that quantum leap? What are you waiting for the Lord to share with you? Or what has the Lord told you already about that quantum leap? Or have you asked Him? That's where I would fall into a trap sometimes, is I would just decide, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this quantum leap. I'm going to do these activities, and I'm going to see a result this, tomorrow. And when we don't ask the Lord the direction that He wants us to go, we're just making it harder on ourselves. We're just making it harder on ourselves. So before you even choose to have a quantum leap, I'm going to encourage you to just ask the Lord, is it time for me to have a quantum leap? What do you want me to leap towards, God? What actions do you want me to take to have this quantum leap? What is going to glorify you about me having this quantum leap? How can I be an example to others with this quantum leap? Ask yourself all those questions and really understand the direction that the Lord is taking you. Because again, we are here to serve. We are here to be an example to others about who Jesus is and how God loves us. And I believe that our activities and our business and the way we serve and the way we love others is supposed to give others the desire to glorify God. I believe it is supposed to give others the feeling of who God is, because we're His hands and feet. So we want to go all the way back. Again, we pray for the Lord to bless our business, and we pray for the Lord to bless our job and bless us at our job. But when we're stretching for quantum leap, do we ask those specific questions? Do we ask the Lord, why does He want us to have a quantum leap? Is this the right time? I know that's a question I haven't even asked myself. I think the Lord just now told me that. Because when I decide it's time for a quantum leap, well, you know what? It's time for a quantum leap. But do we ask the Lord, is it time for a quantum leap? And then listen. Y'all know I'm kind of big on asking the Lord and then listening and then understanding that we have to have that mindset, because we can do the activity and we can stay focused on what we're doing. But if we start to have the mindset that, well, I'm not seeing the results and I've been doing this for 30 minutes, I know I have been there. And it's kind of funny, but it's kind of not, because how many of us do that? I'll go to the gym. I've been at the gym 3 times. Why haven't I lost 30 pounds? Man, if it only worked like that, wouldn't that be awesome? But it doesn't. And we all know that. And isn't it interesting that when we think of quantum leap, I would say 90% of us think of huge and immediate. But even in the definition, it says often sudden, but that doesn't mean it is always sudden. It can be a huge amount of activity that's growing you towards a quantum leap, but the results are going to come later. And then they're going to show up and they're going to be big and they're going to be amazing. But when it is God's timing for you to have that quantum leap, when it's God's timing for you to step into what He's already prepared for you, then you will have the success that He's calling you to. But I am that person. Y'all, I am just so real. I am that person. And so I'm like, I will push. I will try to force myself. I will try to force activity. I will try to force growth that probably isn't necessarily good for me at that time, because I can't sustain it or I don't have the mindset to deal with it. I remember people used to always say to me, Charisse, you're trying too hard. And I would be like, I don't even know what that means. How can you be trying too hard? I don't understand that. And I still actually, to be honest with you, every now and then I'm like, okay, I gotta really sit down and think about this, because trying too hard, like, I don't get that. But what I do understand from the meaning of that is I'm trying to be in control. I know, dun, dun, dun. I am trying to be in control. So again, let me just remind you, the quantum leap is not just about you. So when we're trying to force, oh my goodness, the Lord is just speaking to me right now. When we are trying to force the activity, when we are trying to force the growth that we so desire, yet we haven't even asked the Lord if that quantum leap is where He wants us to go or what He wants us to do or have, or if we're ready for it, then it's almost like we are fighting against the wind. We are basically spitting into the wind. I don't want to spit into the wind, but we want to be working with God, not against what He's got for us, right? And that's hard. I get it. I am very motivated. I am very much a visionary. I am ambitious, but I all want that to glorify God. I want all of that to be the picture of who He created me to be. But oftentimes I find myself trying to take control, take over, and move faster. God, you're not going fast enough, so let me take over. And, the amazing patient God that He is, He's like, okay, take over. And we all know that ends up being a train wreck, or it's just way, way harder than it has to be when we don't let God carry us. When we don't let God carry us, it reminds me of, Peter when he walked on water and he had Jesus's hand and he was looking and focusing on who Jesus was and looking straight in His eyes. He walked on water. But the minute he looked away, what happened? He sank. I would say walking on water is a pretty much a quantum leap. That's pretty much a growth, right? That's a big, big deal. But as soon as he looked away from Jesus, he started to sink. Now, because our God is absolutely amazing, He didn't go, oh, well, good luck with that. I'll see you, on the other side. He didn't do that. He reached His hand down and lifted Peter up. I think I love that part of the story more than anything else. Part of that Bible story because we all look away. I mean, we're human and we make mistakes and we get distracted from what God's calling us to, or we get distracted in what we think a quantum leap should look like, and we forget the direction God's really got for us. When in fact, it might seem slower, but because God's doing it, that's actually where the quantum leap is. But we get distracted and we look away. But my favorite part is because Jesus doesn't go, okay, good luck with that. He says, I'll just be right here when you're ready. And he holds his hand out to us. Oh my goodness, I just love that. That just makes me feel so loved and so cared for. I don't know about you, but yeah, that's like my favorite part of the story. So I would love to know, what did you get out of this specific episode about a quantum leap? Because like I said at the very beginning, it's probably not going to be something that you're expecting about how to have a quantum leap. Now, I will say with the practical steps I talked about at the beginning, you absolutely want to be, praying about it and ask all the questions that I went through already, asking the Lord, is this time for a quantum leap? Am I ready for quantum leap? What does he want me to have out of this quantum leap? How can I be an example to others with this quantum leap? All those questions. And when the Lord has said, okay, it's time, yes, this is for you, then trusting him, taking the action, whatever that is in your field, and taking that action of consistent steps forward, consistent activity towards that goal, regardless of the results that you're seeing immediately. So you're going to stay in that mindset as well. So you're going to take the action and stay in that mindset, regardless of the results that you're seeing immediately. Because remember, God's economy is not ours. So we can stay focused, especially when we know God has answered and said, yes, it is time for you to do this, girl. It's time for you to do this. And I'm right with you. And we're going to take these steps together. Then don't give up. Don't get discouraged if with your physical eyes you're not seeing the results that you want. Oh my word. It's so interesting because I remember when I started this podcast and I'm just in love with doing this and the Lord speaking through me. I was praying and praying before this about what he wants me to say. And sometimes he will have things for me to say that I didn't even know I was going to say. And many times what I talk about is for me as well as for you. But what I want to share with you real quick before we go is actually a story, a situation that I was going through. Because I love this podcast so much, I really wanted to dedicate more time to it and be more focused. And it's just been phenomenal. So I was praying and praying and praying about an additional avenue of income. And I just didn't see the Lord answering. And so I was just about, okay, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to trust you, God. I don't see anything happening. And then boom, that's when the answer came, when I finally said, and because I think I was trying to force it all along before. But the point was, I wanted to have an additional avenue of income so that I could focus on this and on you and on speaking the word that he has for me to speak to anyone who needs to hear it. So I was trying to force a quantum leap somewhere so that I could have that the income that was coming in anyway and be able to dedicate more time to the podcast. So I was trying to force it in my own head because, I'm doing this for God. So of course he's going to want me to be able to dedicate more time to it. But even in that, the quantum leap, the answer didn't come from the direction I thought it would. But it's there. And it happened after I just was like, okay, God, it's yours. I'm just going to trust you with it. So, yes, we can have quantum leaps in our life, in our business, in our growth. Absolutely, 100%. 100%. It takes action that will move the needle. And it takes being specifically dedicated in your mindset. And it takes knowing and understanding that your activity, as dedicated as it is, may not get the results until later, but it will still bring you the quantum leap, even if you don't see it with your physical eyes. Okay? So be sure that you listen to next week's episode. Remember, they drop every Tuesday. And next week's episode, we are talking about what it looks like when you take that leap of faith, but you don't land in the promise that you thought you would, or that it takes longer than you thought it would to land in the promise. All right? All right. Y'all take care. Hey, thank you so much for being here today and listening. Please leave a review and tell me what hit your heart the most. I would love to hear from you. And if you want to partner with me and the production of this podcast, just head over to this Patreon link. Thanks so much.